4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the place you're not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You can always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter and X at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. I see a lot of people, by the way, announcing that they're like leaving X. How much of a blowhard do you have to be to announce that you're leaving a social media platform? Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you get in front of a microphone and obviously you develop a little bit of an ego and you think your word is like the gospel and everyone like lives and dies off every single word that you utter into a microphone. But if you're one of these jackasses that are leaving a social media platform or a social media website, just leave. No one cares if you need to put this big statement together on why you're leaving. Like, nothing against Don Lemon, but I saw him make 9 posts today about leaving Twitter. He released a statement, then released a video. I thought you already left. So don't post more. Just absolutely stupid. So if people want to leave Twitter, I'm not leaving Twitter. I'm not effing leaving. At Zach Gelb is where you can follow me, ZACHGELB. Shameless plug. I'm actually very mad at Stu today to start off the show. So in impromptu fashion, I got an invite after the show last night from a buddy who had a suite at Madison Square Garden for the New York Rangers and the Winnipeg Jets. He called me in the last segment of the show. I was on the air. He left me a message. Hey, I know you're on the air, but give me a call back when you get off the show. I got a ticket for you in a suite tonight for the Rangers and the Jets. And at first I was like, as much as I wanted to go, I didn't know if it was smart for me to go because I was really excited for the college football playoff ranking show. And I'm like, all right, it's in a suite. It will be on, maybe I could watch it, but I could just catch it later. So, I know tough of me, right? I said, I'll go to the luxury box and I'll have all the free food, the free booze, and a nice big comfy seat. So I go to the game. The Rangers did not play well. The Winnipeg Jets are a wagon, and they actually had NHL history last night, becoming the first team to start a season 15-1. So congratulations to them. But, my buddy Max has a luxury box, very nice guy. He was hosting like a business event there. So the people that he was entertaining, I'm not saying like they aren't my people, but it's not like it wasn't a sports business event for me. So it was like a lot of people that I think just didn't have a lot of interest in the game. So I was kind of like that loser just sitting down, right, watching the game, cheering. And it was like I was in the minority at a sporting event. So I'm trying to follow the college football playoff rankings there. So in the suite, there's like 14 comfy seats and that you could watch the game. And then there's like an open area where there is the big TV. But since a lot of people didn't care about the game, they were occupying that area where the TV was. And also you had the college basketball games going on. Congratulations, by the way, to Mark Pope. Where the games were going on and it's like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get to the TV. You know what? It's not that big of a deal to actually miss the college football playoff ranking show. I'll just check it out when I get home. And I knew, right, I would see it on social media or I would get a text. So, Stu, when someone texts you and you just see it load on the top of your phone, but you don't actually open the message, you see like a few sentences?
Of course.
So I put my bracket out, and you know this, right? Being one of the producers on this show and listening to the show every day. I put the bracket out yesterday. I had Oregon 1, Texas 2, BYU 3, Miami 4. And then I had Ohio State playing Boise State in the 5-12 matchup. Penn State as the 6 playing Ole Miss as the 11. Tennessee is the 7 playing 10 Alabama. And then Indiana 8 playing Notre Dame 9. So I got a text from Stu at 8:59 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm at the game, still watching the game. It was in the third period. It was still a game. And I just see it loaded. But before I opened it, just the preview message before it loads, and it says, "You nailed it." And I'm like, oh, look at me. the king of college football. Last week, 12 for 12 in the first bracket. This week, almost impossible to predict. I went 12 for 12 again. So I was about to go to my Twitter feed, and I was about to quote tweet my bracket and be like, perfection again. Look at me, right? Take one of those bows like Don Lemon on Twitter. Oh, let me take a bow that I'm leaving. Zach Gelb was going to take a bow that he was right with the college football playoff bracket. And after 2 beers, I thought to myself, even in that frame of mind, I said, you know what? Let me just make sure what the bracket was. And it's not actually as easy as you think because they put out the top 25 rankings, but you could be in the top 12 and not be in the bracket because of the fact that 5 conference champions, the 5 highest ranked conference champions, get on in. And Boise State, which, by the way, shame on the committee for dropping Boise State to 13 after a win. AP poll, losers. Committee, losers for doing that. That's my one gripe because we're on in Boise, and I love the great people that do follow Boise State football. But as I'm about to send out this tweet, I finally find the bracket. And I'm going through, and I'm like, I did it again. And then I see that all I needed to do was actually just flip-flop Tennessee and Indiana. So I'm about to respond to Stu. Hey, dummy, not for nothing. I didn't nail it. And that's when, Stu, I opened up the full text message, and you followed it up with, you nailed it, which is the only part I saw. And then you wrote, in the astute way, they flipped Indiana and Tennessee, but yeah, LOL. So here's my gripe with you, Stu. And now you need to atone for your sins. What am I? You think I'm like James Franklin? You think I'm like Participation State University Gelb? It's either you get 12 for 12 right or you don't get them right. You saying to me that I nailed it, I didn't nail it. I got it very close, but I got 2 matchups wrong where I needed to just flip-flop Indiana and Tennessee and then got everything else right. So you saying you nailed it to me.
Factually incorrect.
Yeah, and it got my hopes all the way up, and then I was just torn down, and I was deflated. So that's my biggest problem these days.
To be fair, if you got 12 of 12 teams, and the only thing you missed was, 7 and 8? That's pretty. Again, you didn't nail it, so
I came close.
You came probably as close as you can be.
I was like the Seahawks in the Super Bowl up against the Patriots. I got the ball down to the 2-3 yard line, and then instead of handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, I threw an interception. Now, I do still look better than a lot of other people out there. You know what's crazy to me? How many people cover college football daily? And I don't know if it's just because they're trying to get a take that will pop or a take that will suck up to a fan base, but it is absurd to me how you could cover college football on the regular and you thought that Georgia in the second playoff installment was getting in to the bracket. You know, them being the 12th ranked team in the country, not surprising. I don't have a gripe with that. But the fact that they didn't get into the bracket, like I'm hearing people just rip off takes last night. How does the committee not put Georgia in? Well, because they have 2 losses. And they just got smacked by Ole Miss. So I don't understand how I could see something. And I know I'm kind of kidding around with getting it all wrong with the 2 teams and I needed to flop Tennessee and Indiana. But I don't understand how you couldn't have an idea of who the 12 teams are going to be last night. And like this fake outrage, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe that Georgia's not in. Georgia lost to Alabama, and Georgia lost to Ole Miss. So yes, Ole Miss deserves to be in this week, and Georgia doesn't. And it's still amazing to me, Stu, and I know this is new. How many people don't understand how the college football playoff rankings work? And how the bracket works for the playoff. 5 conference champions are guaranteed spots. The 4 highest ranked conference champions get a bye, and then that 5th conference champ could be placed anywhere. So there's a chance, like what happened with Boise State, they're ranked 13, but they get in the top 12 because they would right now be the highest ranked non-Core 4 conference champ. I just don't understand stupidity. And we have a lot of stupidity in this world. And you have people that get paid a lot of money to sit in front of a microphone. And I just hear a lot of stupid takes. Like, I don't know how anyone could be outraged last night over what the committee did. I just don't see it. I don't understand how anyone could be outraged. So Georgia did not belong in the second installment. Like, I don't even get what the conversation is. I really don't. And to me, it's not me saying that they're not going to get in because, hey, they were ranked 12th, even though they didn't make the bracket. So they take care of business. And if they win out, they should be able to make the college football playoff. But as of now, they were not deserving of getting in. I really only thought the two big things, or like three things to watch for last night. Yes, was Georgia going to get in? I never thought they were going to. But was there a chance that maybe the committee just said, oh, they're Georgia, put them in? I guess. But no one should be surprised that they didn't get in. But I really thought the two other things that I was fascinated by was, would SMU jump Miami, which I did not anticipate to happen. Miami falls down to 9. SMU is still in 14 because that would be the ACC representative. And then I was curious on where Indiana would be. Because Indiana plays Ohio State next weekend. I threw out there that there is a possibility that if Indiana loses that game, depending on what their ranking is and what their ranking was going to be on Tuesday, depending on how they lost that game, even though all we've done has praised Kurt Cignetti this year and the unbelievable job at Indiana, first time that program is 10-0, that there was a chance if they lost that game that they would be on the outside looking in for the playoff and the committee would screw them over. Well, the committee last night, even though Indiana was the 7th seed on the bracket, they were the 5th seed in the rankings. So I would assume if you're the 5th seed in the rankings and you lose to the 2 seed in the rankings, because that's what Ohio State was, I would anticipate that even with the loss to Ohio State, Indiana with one loss on the season would still get into the college football playoff. But last night, this is what the bracket ends up looking like. You did have, obviously, Oregon 1 bye, just in the seeding, 2 Texas bye, 3 BYU bye, 4 Miami bye. Boise State 12 playing Ohio State 5, Notre Dame 9, Tennessee 8, Ole Miss 11, Penn State 6, Alabama 10, Indiana 7. So, taking this a step further, if your team name is not Oregon, Texas, BYU, Miami, Ohio State, Boise State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Penn State, Ole Miss, Indiana, or Alabama. So once again, if I did not mention your team's name, so you were not in the second installment of the college football playoff bracket, that's what I'll call it, not rankings, bracket. If you had to pick 2 teams to get in that didn't make the bracket last night, who would be your 2 teams? And I could understand people that would say, okay, SMU makes the ACC title game, they beat Miami. But those aren't the first 2 teams that I thought of. The first 2 teams that I thought of were Georgia and also Colorado. And hear me out. Georgia, their last big regular season game is coming up this weekend. And we knew that Nico Iamaleava didn't play in the second half of his last game. We were unsure what the injury was. It comes out yesterday that he's in concussion protocol. Now, the coach said they're expecting to have him, Josh Heupel, but then there was a lot of reporting last night that would insinuate that they're not anticipating actually having Nico Iamaleava in that game. So I do think, even though earlier in the week I thought Tennessee could win that game, because Tennessee reminds me a lot kind of like Ole Miss, where the offense has been up and down, the defense is better than what we thought. If you get a Nico Iamaleava performance like what you could get, similar to like what Jackson Dart's capable of doing, I thought Tennessee could win the game. But with the status unknown of Nico Iamaleava, I think Georgia's going to win that game. And then after that, Georgia plays UMass, and Georgia Tech's been a good program, but I don't think anyone is going to believe that Georgia Tech is going to upset Georgia. So we'll see it then they make the SEC championship game. That's a whole different conversation. You're almost, if you're Georgia, you don't want to make the SEC championship game, because if Georgia ends up going 10-2, I would then think that Georgia would get in the college football playoff. And then here comes the Colorado question. And people may be saying, oh, Zach, you're just playing the hits. Oh, Zach, you're just looking for clicks. No, I'm not. The thing with Colorado, their remaining schedule, and it's not easy in the Big 12 because the Big 12 is now like the old Pac-12, where it's whenever you fall in love with a team, they go down within the next 2 weeks. You got a tough game up against Utah, but Utah's still bitching about the refs from last week. You got Kansas and you got Oklahoma State. With the talent that Colorado has, they should be able to get those 3 wins. And if Colorado gets into a Big 12 championship game with the way they've been playing and how dominant they've looked as of late, I will trust my chances with Colorado over going with BYU, who is undefeated. I get that. But BYU has had some close calls in the last few weeks of the season where you could argue they probably could have gone down or should have gone down. So when I look at the teams that did not make the college football playoff bracket last night, and you say, Zach, pick 2 teams that you think will get in, I will say Georgia and also Colorado. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Adrian in Maryland, first up on the Zach Gelb Show. Yo, Adrian, what's happening?
Yo, Zach, what's going on? Hey, got a couple questions for you. Maybe you can clear this up for me. How's SMU behind Miami? SMU has 2 top 25 wins, and Miami has that loss against Georgia Tech, plus those really a Virginia Tech loss. I thought Georgia. I'm not griping about Georgia. I understand where they're at, but I thought they should have been in over Miami just because of their losses. Their losses on the road to 2 ranked teams that are in the playoffs.
Yeah, so you look at SMU, they lost to BYU, and then they lost, that's their only loss on the season. So you would think, okay, your one loss is to BYU, that they should get in over Miami. And then when you look at Miami, they lost to Georgia Tech. I think it's just the Cam Ward factor, and it's the name recognition of the Miami program. That's what I think it is. If you want to tell me that they value that Florida blowout in week 1, I think that's absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's the brand recognition. They were undefeated. They just lost. SMU, I know, already had a loss and where they were in the rankings, but for the discrepancy to be that big between Miami and SMU, I didn't think that was right, but let's just be real. In all likelihood, we're going to see Miami and SMU in the ACC title game, with SMU playing Boston College is making a quarterback change, Virginia and Cal, and the Miami still left on their schedule they're off this week, but then they play Wake Forest and Syracuse. You'll probably see those 2 teams, and then the winner gets in. The ACC's only getting 1 team in.
Zach, one more question real quick. Hey, Indiana plays Ohio State next week. If they lose by, let's say, 3 points, do they still get in if they run the table after that?
So before last night, I would have said it was up in the air, with Indiana getting ranked as the 5th team last night in college football. I think they could lose by more than 3 and still get in. As long as they lose by 2 touchdowns or fewer, I do think they are going to get in. The only way maybe they get squeezed out, potentially, is if, let's just say, BYU and Colorado play in the Big 12 championship game. BYU's undefeated, and let's say Colorado beats them by 3. You're going to leave out BYU after they were undefeated. But I would think a one-loss Indiana does get in. And thanks for the phone call, Adrian, especially after last night. I know they ended up being the 7th seed, but they were the 5th team in the rankings. So who are 2 teams or a team that did not make the bracket last night that you think will get in once the bracket is finalized in December? I'm going to go with Colorado winning the Big 12, and I'm not going to say Georgia wins the SEC, but I do think Georgia is going to win out and find themselves in the college football playoff. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Who should Shedeur Sanders avoid? What team should he avoid in the NFL? We'll get to that next. But first, football season is in full swing. Take full advantage by winning some cash with Sleeper Picks. Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 of your favorite player stats. If you're right, you could win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Sleeper has a special offer. New users will have their first deposit match up to $1,500. So if you deposit $1,500, they'll give you an extra $1,500 in credit. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections every week of the season. Check in and see what they have this week. Download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be 100% matched up to $1,500 in credit. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code SCORE for up to $1,500 credit match in your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be at least 18 years old in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code location and other restrictions apply. See terms of use or details at sleeper.com. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's hear from Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. He was on FS1 the other day, and he was talking about Shedeur Sanders and how he could play a role in where his son does get drafted. Listen up.
Will you step in and do some of that if it's the wrong organization and say he ain't going there?
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it publicly. I'll do it privately.
Yeah. Okay.
You're going to be dad. You're going to be dad.
I'm going to be dad. The cows come home. Yes, sir. And with Travis as well.
Give us a little bit more insight on where you would like to. You don't even have to name teams. You can just give me region, style, whatever, that Shedeur needs or you want to see him go.
I'm not going to give you region. I give you understanding.
Give me understanding.
Somebody that can handle the quarterback that he is. Somebody that can handle understanding that what he's capable of. Someone that has had success in the past handling quarterbacks, or someone in an organization understands what they're doing. Not just throwing you out there amongst the wolves if you don't have the support in the infrastructure of the team.
I will say this, Stu. I could see there being a character assassination of Shedeur Sanders from once the college football season ends until the draft. And I think all of it will be bull junk, if I'm being serious. You will have me probably yell a lot of times once the college football season ends, when these dopey websites talk to these executives that are going to want to draft Shedeur, and they're going to try to just assassinate his character or say, oh, Deion's going to be a huge factor, when, let's be real, the Manning family did this. And they were even public about it. Now, Coach Prime says he'll do it behind the scenes. I don't think Coach Prime keeps anything behind the scenes. But this idea that this would be like the first time ever and now would be a great distraction and that's why you can't draft Shedeur, well, the Manning family did it with Eli to avoid Eli having to go play for the Chargers, and we know he ended up winning 2 Super Bowls with the New York Giants. So I do think there's going to be, Stu, a lot of bull crap that gets put out there. But what we've seen from Shedeur the last 2 years, at Colorado has been a quarterback that does more with less, and his teammates love him. And does he have a big personality? Absolutely. But I want my quarterback to be the alpha. I want my quarterback to be the top dog and to be the man. So this idea that Coach Prime is going to harm the draft stock of Shedeur Sanders, I think is silly because, Stu, who else are these teams drafted? Like, if you look at the draft right now, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are by far and away on paper the 2 best quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to – I mean, they might use it as a distraction, try to direct where they want him to go, but I don't think it's going to be like teams can't draft. Like, that's just ridiculous. There's no way. He's easily one of the 2 best quarterbacks in the draft, probably top 5 pick, maybe even higher, since quarterbacks do go higher. I would just be stunned if that isn't the case.
I had a thought yesterday, by the way, and it sort of has something to do with what we're talking about. So Joe Shane held a bye-week press conference, and I watched the entirety of that press conference, all of like 25 minutes of it. And I do think the Giants should keep Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. Like, you have a decision. You either keep Joe Shane and Brian Daboll and you keep them for 2 more years and they go draft a quarterback. Or you get rid of them. I don't think you're getting a Ben Johnson. So then you bring in Belichick or Vrabel and you basically just hand your entire franchise over to either one of those 2. I don't think either decision are wrong, but personally, I do think the Giants are going to keep Shane and they're going to keep Daboll. Now, the Giants right now would have the 2nd overall pick in the draft. So this conversation I'm about to have wouldn't apply to the Giants right now because at 2 it would either be Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. But let's say if the Giants fall a little bit. Like, I don't know, they go to Tommy DeVito and they get hot. And you got chicken cutlets and mozzarella cheese flying everywhere. And let's say they fall down to like 8 or 9. And let's say when they're drafting, they know that regime has to go get a quarterback, that Jalen Milroe is available. And, like, I'm not saying Jalen Milroe is deserving of being a top 10 pick. He has been inconsistent. There are moments with, like, Tennessee where his awareness was terrible. And then there are situations like Georgia and LSU where the first half against Georgia was as good as any quarterback played this year in the first half of a game. And then the LSU game, he was awesome. I'm not saying he's Josh Allen. Let me be clear, because that would be stupid. Josh Allen's arm is 1,000% better than Jalen Milroe's arm. But if you look at Brian Daboll and the way that he kind of worked with Josh Allen and they worked so well together, it's like I would be fascinated by seeing Daboll with Milroe, because you know that offense would be real. Like, hey, as good of a runner as Josh Allen is, Jalen Milroe's a better runner. Now, the arm of Josh Allen is 10 times better than the arm of Jalen Milroe, but I would wonder how they would develop together, Brian Daboll and Jalen Milroe. That was just like a late-night thought that I had last night about the Giants when I was sitting down and finally watching that Joe Shane press conference. But anyway, to get back to this conversation about Shedeur. Stu, I'm going to put you in the role of Coach Prime right now. I'm going to give you the team. You tell me if you are Coach Prime, right, you're Shedeur's father, if you're going to veto that team and say, I don't want my son going there. And I'll tell you if I agree or disagree. First team up. All righty. It's John Mara with the Giants. Coach Prime, Deion, I had to give you a phone call. We're thinking about drafting your son. Will you give us your blessing?
Yes, no veto for that one.
Why no veto? Because I think some people listening would actually veto, would think, oh, you probably should veto that with the way the Giants have been as of late.
No, I don't know. I just think maybe the history of the organization would make me feel better about it. I know the past couple of years have not been good, but I think the Giants, I think that would be a decent spot for him.
So I would actually say I would not veto the deal, and here's why. Or veto the draft pick. It has nothing to do with the history of the Giants. It has nothing to do with them winning 4 Super Bowl championships. You know, I think being in New York, Deion's not going to shy away from that for his son. But I look at that team, as crazy as it is to say this, with the Giants being 2-8. But we've seen teams like the Texans and the Commanders quickly turn it around when you get the quarterback. The Giants have some foundational pieces. You know, Malik Neighbors is a star wide receiver. You look at the defense, I like Dexter Lawrence. I like Kayvon Thibodeau. I like Bobby Okereke. You know, Brian Burns is really damn good. You got some pieces there, and you have, assuming that Daboll's still there, you have an offensive-minded head coach. I'm not saying that I expect the Giants with Shedeur Sanders to go win 12 games next season, but could they be 9-8 and be a playoff team with Shedeur Sanders? Absolutely. All righty, ring, it's Tennessee. The Titans want to draft Shedeur Sanders.
Veto that one.
I would agree with you. Even though they have an offensive-minded head coach, you don't got a lot around him. You know, Calvin Ridley's there, but I think we've seen the better days of Calvin Ridley. You know, Tony Pollard doesn't really move the needle for me, and it kind of feels like they're an irrelevant football team. And I don't think Shedeur is going to play on an irrelevant football team. All righty, here we go. Ring. And I said, here we go again. It's the Cleveland Browns, and it's 1st and 10. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Ho, ho. The dog pound wants Shedeur Sanders. Stu?
I say no veto. I still think there's some talent there, especially Myles Garrett leading the defense. The defense is pretty good. Like, I think that wouldn't be the worst, despite how bad they've been with quarterbacks in their past.
I would think that they would step in and say no. Because I think that Coach Prime looks at his son as above the Cleveland Browns, and they've had 20 years of really bad quarterback play. Ring, it's Mark Davis with the Raiders.
I would say no veto. You have Brock Bowers, you have Tom Brady leading the charge, Vegas. I think it's a great spot. Obviously, I'm biased here, but I think it's a great spot.
Well, I wouldn't say they're a great spot, Stu.
Good spot.
But I think with Brady being there and how close Brady and Deion and Brady and Shedeur are, I would think that he would get the blessing from Pops. All righty, how about the Saints? They call you up.
I would veto that one.
Yeah, I like Olave. You know, you still have Kamara there. We don't even know who's going to be the head coach, and Mickey Loomis is still going to be running the show. All right, I got 3 more for you. Christopher Johnson, or maybe Woody Johnson's calling from England. The Jets, Jets. Aaron Rodgers coming back. You sit behind Aaron for a year, and then it's the Shedeur Sanders show. Huh.
I don't know if I think Deion would want Shedeur sitting a year.
Okay, fine. Rodgers retires. Jets then say so.
No veto then.
No veto. Okay. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Devontae Adams. That's fair. Carolina Panthers.
Veto.
Yeah, I think so too. And then finally, let's save the best for last. Hopefully, the sun isn't an issue. That could be a veto power. But what happens if the Cowboys say we want to get rid of Dak, even though we just gave him an extension? We'll trade Dak, and the Cowboys want to draft Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, that might be Deion's dream right there. I think that's a clear no veto.
Yeah, I don't think Shedeur would be available by where the Cowboys are picking, even though they are 3-6. Their quarterback's out for the season, and they're there at 11. So the only teams you think he would veto would be the Titans and who'd you say, the Saints and the Panthers?
Yes, those are the three.
Okay. And I think Cleveland and Cleveland would also be one as well. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'll give you my top 5 teams in college football and the NFL next with a little Take 5 Wednesday. First up, though, with the latest sports flash. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Progressive, proud to support veterans and small businesses with their annual Keys to Progress vehicle giveaway program, helping our heroes drive their lives forward. Learn more at keystoprogress.com. Greg Popovich has been out nearly 2 weeks, and we learned today it was because of a mild stroke. The 75-year-old coach is expected to make a full recovery. There's no timetable for his return. The defending champs are looking up at the Cavaliers, who are off to their best start ever at 12-0 with new coach Kenny Atkinson leading the way. Cleveland looks to extend its winning ways tonight in Philadelphia, which will be without Joel Embiid and Paul George, as the two are sitting out the second game of a back-to-back. The Colts were adamant they're not giving up on Anthony Richardson, and the former 4th pick overall is back as the starter. Head coach Shane Steichen said he'll be the number 1 quarterback for the remainder of the season, beginning with Sunday's game against the Jets. The Jaguars in Detroit Sunday, they have already ruled out Trevor Lawrence due to an injured left shoulder. Gardner Minshew will start for the Raiders at quarterback against the Dolphins this weekend, and the Bears have released offensive guard Nate Davis. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
As the dust settles from last week's games, it's time to look at which teams are rising and which are falling.
And there's an interception.
Zach ranks his top 5 NFL and college football teams on this week's edition of Take 5, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
It is a Take 5 Wednesday on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It's time to ask the pros as well, where you're the listener who gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sports Center at Zach Gelb. Using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. All righty. Let's start off with college first. And I don't know if I'm going to annoy people here in college football, but I'm not worrying about your feelings when it comes to my top 5 rankings this week. And I know some people are going to say, well, what does the resume say? Is the team undefeated or not? I'm just doing who I think are the top 5 best teams in the country. If you put any of these top 5 teams on the field, maybe one team Stu will mention to me outside of the top 5 could potentially beat them. So, without further ado, and I'm not talking about Freddie Adu, I'll give you the top 5 rankings in college football. I'll start at number 1. They're undefeated. I think the best thing to happen to them was the first 2 weeks of the season, they did not play a wonderful brand of football up against Idaho and Boise State. But Oregon has been the most consistent team this season after that 2-week stretch. Oregon is in at number 1. Number 2, they've had one loss. It was to Oregon by 1 point. And then in their next big game of the season, they found a way to defeat Penn State. Ohio State in at number 2. In at number 3, they have not won the big game, but I love the way that this team is built in the trenches. They have overcome a quarterback injury, and obviously he's been back for a while now. We'll see if they could win a big game down the stretch, or maybe in the SEC championship game, or maybe in the college football playoff. But I'm putting Texas in at number 3. In at number 4, they may not be here after this weekend, but I do this off the right now, and I will put Tennessee in at number 4. I love their defense. And Nico Iamaleava has been up and down, but he is a freshman. We will see if he will be able to go this weekend with the concussion. And in at number 5, Roll Tide. The defense the last 3 weeks, stellar. And Jalen Milroe went back to being the Jalen Milroe that he could be capable of. So 1 Oregon, 2 Ohio State, 3 Texas, 4 Tennessee, and then 5 Roll Tide. Stu, speak now, forever hold your peace. Sorry.
All right. So you mentioned Alabama. What about another SEC team with 2 losses that had a massive win this past weekend in Ole Miss?
That's the one team I feel bad about leaving out. But I only get 5 spots. Their defense is really, really, really damn good and underappreciated. Offensively, Dart threw the pick early, then he got injured, then he came back, and their offense did enough. I just look at who I just put in the 5 spot, Alabama. Alabama also beat Georgia, and Alabama also has a very nice victory up against LSU, and Ole Miss lost to LSU by 3, so that's why Alabama's in over Ole Miss.
What about the Indiana Hoosiers, now 10-0 with, of course, Ohio State looming?
I think that's the one a lot of people are going to say, Zach. How do you not put an undefeated Indiana in? And I love the confidence of Kurt Cignetti. I love that they're undefeated. I just think they're going to lose coming up next week up against Ohio State. And if you put Indiana up against Alabama, I'm taking Alabama to beat Indiana.
All right. What about the team that the committee believes is the 4th best team in the country in Penn State?
Who have they defeated of any significance? You know, their biggest game of the year was Ohio State, and their offense choked. Absolutely choked. They were at the 3-yard line. You had 4 plays, and you couldn't get the ball in the end zone, and then your defense got demolished by what was a makeshift offensive line. So I don't think Penn State's elite. I just think they're good.
All right, and last one, what about the undefeated BYU Cougars?
They're leaking. They're showing some holes. They're showing some signs that they're about to go down. You know, I don't really fault the officiating in that contest up against Utah. I know the AD was furious, but that was not a game where you walk away, even though I like Jake Retzloff and Kalani Sitake a lot, where you feel great about the BYU Cougars. All righty, so those are my top 5 teams in college football this week. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Tennessee 4, and then Alabama in at number 5. All righty, next up, NFL. 5-1 or 1-5, Stu? What do you want to go with, Stu Pa?
I think your back end is more interesting here, so I would go 1-5.
Oh, it's very nice of you to say about my back end. Let's go in at number 1. The Detroit Lions. I thought about maybe dropping them to 2, but you just see the type of team they can be and the team that they are in the second half with how atrocious they were through the first 30 minutes up against the Texans. They won a game. It may be the most impressive thing I've seen all season. They've won a game up against a good team when the quarterback threw 5 interceptions. Their own quarterback, Jared Goff, and they won. So that comeback keeps them in the number 1 spot. 2, it's a Kansas City Chiefs. They just survived up against the Broncos. They have a tough game this weekend up against the Bills. But for all the ways that people try to slight the Kansas City Chiefs and go, oh, they're not that good, they're still undefeated. And they're still the biggest force to be reckoned with in the NFL, even though I had them ranked here at 2. They're the team that scares the most people because of Mahomes, even though Mahomes hasn't played great. 3, the Buffalo Bills. They smashed the Indianapolis Colts, and they are a fun team to watch. Josh Allen playing like he's the MVP of the NFL right now. In at number 4, welcome back, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know you may say, Zach, all they did was smash the Dallas Cowboys who were playing a backup quarterback. This Eagles team has so much talent. The biggest problem is I don't trust their head coach. But the talent could maybe win out over the head coach, even though the head coach does a lot of boneheaded and makes a lot of boneheaded decisions. But with Jalen Hurts, with Saquon Barkley, with A.J. Brown, with Skinny Batman, Devontae Smith, just so much talent on this team, I put them back in the top 5. And notice, we didn't have Chris in California call in this week advocating for Kenny Pickett to start at quarterback. And then finally, in at number 5, it looked like the Bengals were going to get them, just like it did the first time these two teams played in early October, but that wasn't the case. The Ravens get the job done up against the Cincinnati Bengals, and just what a wonderful performance that was by Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. That defense does concern me. I don't love that defense, but in a year where there's not a lot of great teams in the NFL, the Ravens are a heck of a team. Lions 1, Chiefs 2, Bills 3, Eagles 4, Ravens 5. As Stu did appreciate my backside. His words, not mine. But what do we rock and roll with here, Stu, for Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace?
All right, what about the Steelers who have won 4 straight up to 7-2?
I know a lot of terrible towel fans want to throw themselves into the Super Bowl contending conversation. I just can't go there yet. An impressive win up against the Commanders. The defense is phenomenal. TJ Watt is the best defensive player in football. Najee Harris, I've been a big fan of his. He's underrated and doesn't get enough respect in that fan base. Russell Wilson's better than what we thought. But it just looms over the whole conversation with the Steelers that we've seen them do this so many times in the past where they have these really good regular seasons and they've been an absolute zero. They've been a dud. They've been horrific in the postseason, not winning a playoff game since the 2016 season. So that thought still permeates in my brain, and that's why I don't have the Steelers in the top 5, because I feel like even though they're really good, this is some fool's gold.
What about the current NFC West leaders, the Arizona Cardinals?
Respectable, a team that I hope makes the postseason. I love me some Kyler Murray with what he's been able to do this year, and Jonathan Gannon, even though I thought he was a bit of a creep when he got the job, Mr. Boop, 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 boop. But he's turned out to be a coach that the players do like and they do respect. They're just not elite. Can they win that division? Yes, but I still think they have a lot more to prove before we even consider them going into the top 5. But a very good showing for them last weekend, saying, hey, people think the Jets are going to beat us. Funny. We'll just run the Jets off the field. Next team.
All right, what about the 7-3 Commanders?
Right there, if they would have beat the Steelers, it's tough to leave them out, although they did lose to the Ravens. But losing to the Steelers and how they lost with the defensive miscue at the end and jumping off, that was a bad look. So Commanders have been a heck of a story, one of the best stories in the NFL, but just outside of the top 5. And a big one coming up tomorrow up against the Eagles to kick off another week of football on Thursday night.
All right, and last one, what about the team with the statistical best defense in the league, the Chargers?
They really haven't played anyone outside of Kansas City, and they lost after going up 10-0. But the stock is rising. It's rising because this is what Jim Harbaugh does. He has a good offensive line. He gets the most out of his quarterback. He can run the football, and then his defense punches you in the mouth over and over and over and over and over again. I love me some Jim Harbaugh. Even though he could be a little bit of a wackadoo after the games with some of his post-game press conferences, I love me some Jim Harbaugh. But that team has to go beat someone that we could actually respect before we say, hey, they're a top 5 team. So my top 5 teams in college football: Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama for this week. And my top 5 teams in the NFL: the Lions, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, and the Ravens. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It is a Wednesday. And on a Wednesday in football season, we talk to Hot Take Hickey. I'm sure he'll have some hot takes about the Indianapolis Colts going back to his mans and Anthony Richardson. And we will also get his thoughts on the College Football Playoff Committee and what they did last night. Hickey always has some like whiny, crazy, high-pitched voice take about something that the College Football Playoff Committee did wrong. So we'll see what that is when we come on back. Back in 5, it is the Zach Gelb Show. I'm not leaving Twitter unlike some, so make sure you follow me there. Twitter X at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling. Hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And now joining us is a man that's very popular in our YouTube chat. And it's because of his hair height and how much moisturizer he puts on his face. What an introduction. He is the host of Hick at Night on the Infinity Sports Network, Sundays, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Time. You could also catch him during the week, Monday through Fridays from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And I have really created the brand of Hot Take Hickey, and the brand is booming that I even was late night listening to the network. And I heard a certain voice that was familiar to me, just not in the time slot that I'm used to hearing you on, as you were on a guest of Bart's show last night. Was that right?
That's right. That's right. Bart and I, just two men, just talking ball. Guys being dudes, chatted up just like you normally would.
So why were you on? He asked you for your football opinion, or was someone maybe running late that produces Bart's show, Carlos, and where you fill it? I'm just asking.
You think I was a pity spot? No, this is a guest spot. We were talking college football playoff rankings.
Gotcha. Well,
Carlos was there on time, as always.
I appreciate your football knowledge, your college football knowledge. That's why I put you on in this spot, but I just didn't know if it resonated with the rest of the network.
And now I guess the word has spread, maybe.
Yeah. Bill Ryder putting you on next? Or does he not respect your college football opinion?
Wow. I'd like to think, Bill.
Maggie and Perloff giving you a call?
No, too early. That's my excuse.
So Samter every week puts a little title up for you, and this one says riding over the college football playoff bracket. Are you upset with the bracket?
Yes.
Ugh, why?
Why do you say ugh? These rankings do matter.
Because they got the right 12 teams in. That's all I care right now about. If you get the right 12 teams
seeding is important.
Okay, so
who you're
let me
ranked
ask you
above does matter.
Okay, fine. What is your fake outrage about with this go around? What are you really annoyed about? Like, what's the thing that's, I'm not saying keeping you up at night, but you get what I'm meaning on
Here's
that.
what frustrates me the most. I'm going to use BYU as an example. BYU is at 6.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they are 6 to me is ridiculous because they have right now the best resume of any team. They're undefeated. They have 2 top 16 victories, one on the road, by the way, over SMU. No other team has 2 top 16 victories.
You think they have a better resume than Oregon?
Oregon's got a nice win, yeah. But, I mean, they got 2 top 16 victories.
Oh, top 16? That's what we're doing now?
No one else has it.
Okay.
I mean, Oregon has one of the best wins in the country. And maybe if I was going a little dramatic by saying they have the best
number 2
resume.
team in the country that's ranked right now.
That was a great win for Oregon.
And then they beat the Oregon's best win is Ohio State.
Yes,
yeah.
by far.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, is it the best? No, but is it right up there? Yes. And the fact that they are behind, look, I'll even put Penn State in there.
Wait. You just said, hold on. You're wrong on this.
Why is that?
Ohio State lost to Oregon.
Right.
Boise State lost to Oregon. Those are 2?
Oh, I forgot about Boise State.
Ah!
Okay. So second best resume for BYU.
Who are you?
My point is,
you're like Pat McAfee and Rodgers now. You're just pulling out erroneous stats.
No erroneous stats. My apology on sleeping on the Broncos there for a second. But it's like you look at BYU. That's an impressive resume. They're one of 2 teams.
This is why the outrage is ridiculous.
2 top 16 victories. And they are behind right now a Texas team with 0 top 25 victories and a loss. A Penn State team with 0 top 25 victories and a loss.
Mm-hmm.
A Indiana team plays great. They have the 100th ranked strength of schedule. I couldn't even, what's Indiana's best win? Nebraska, Washington, Michigan? We could talk about it.
Okay.
But Indiana right now doesn't have, BYU's probably 4th best win is comparable right now to Indiana's best win.
So you're annoyed that BYU is 6, Indiana's 5 is your main takeaway.
BYU should be 3. It should be Oregon, Ohio State, BYU.
Okay, if you want to say that, I just care if they get the 12 teams in that are deserving to be the 12 teams in. The order on the second ranking really doesn't upset me all that much. So how do you think now a week away, a little over a week away, that Ohio State-Indiana game is going to play on out?
I think I saw an early line about 9.5, 10 roughly. I think Indiana's going to play really well. I don't know yet. I've not made a decision. I could see myself picking Indiana. They're a really good team. They get no respect in part because they've played nobody, and it's the brand bias. They are balanced offensively. They're really good defensively.
What do you mean they don't get no respect? They're just ranked 5th in the rankings.
Yes. But Vegas has them 10-point underdog, and now they're finally getting the respect they deserve after, in part because teams lose. Like they were 8th last week. Should they have been 8? No, should have been higher. But anyway, they are really good. But the point is they are really good, and I think they have a real chance to win next week.
Okay, last week you laughed at me when I said that Ole Miss was going to beat Georgia.
That's
you
right.
laughed at me.
You
tried
That's
to
right.
humiliate me, and
That's
you
right.
said a lot of nice, not so nice things to me, and my feelings were hurt. So Ole Miss beat Georgia. Surprise, surprise. But I heard one thing you said last night with Bart. I turned you off, not because I don't love you and Bart. I just didn't want to hear the college football playoff conversation. and have it ruined with the conversation that I'm trying to bring today.
Okay.
But the one thing I heard you say was that Georgia's no longer a national championship contender.
Correct.
That's all I heard.
Right.
And then I turned you off. Why?
Because their offense is not consistent enough to win 4 playoff games. Like, think about it. I think they're going to make the playoff. I think they're beating Tennessee. They will be in the top 12. But now you look at the path. Well, they have 2 losses, and their path right now is going to most likely be a first-round road playoff game. Maybe it's at Ohio State. Maybe it's at Penn State. Maybe it's at Tennessee. Like, that's tough. Their losses have come on the road. And you look at right now how they've won. Their defense with what we saw in Austin when they played Texas a few weeks ago that was one of the best just units performances I've seen all season. I thought we were going to see that same Georgia defense against Ole Miss. That Georgia defense stunk against Ole Miss. They have the talent, they don't have the consistency. And you've seen with Georgia's offense, you can't rely on them to even, put 3 plays together of positive yards. They are awful running the ball. Carson Beck's an awful decision maker. When he actually throws a decent pass, the receivers can't catch it. So you are right now, really, if you're Georgia, hamstrung on, in order for you to win games, you need your defense to play at the highest level possible and then have to do that 4 times in a row to win a championship? I don't think they can.
Let me just play devil's advocate here. Because I've been out on Carson Beck for over a month, at least. And I think how there's some in our business who were surprised last night that Georgia wasn't in the bracket. It's like, do you even watch the games? And I do think Georgia will eventually get in because I think they're going to win out in the regular season. With Nico Iamaleava's status being up in the air, I almost was going to pick Tennessee, but now not knowing if he's going to be there, I will take Georgia in that one as we sit here on a Wednesday. But with all that being said, let me just ask you a question. Working with me, I am very selective when it comes to calling teams great. Mm-hmm. How many great teams do you think there are in college football this year?
1.
Oregon?
I would just say Oregon.
Not Ohio State?
I would not put Ohio State in there.
Why?
I think they're very close. I think they have some deficiencies on the offensive line, and that scares me.
Okay. I would say the 2 great teams right now in college football are Oregon and Ohio State. Ohio State just lost to Oregon by 1 point at their place. And I hate the Buckeyes, but I'm going to be fair here. So if you're telling me there's only 2 great teams in college football, this would be my devil's advocate argument. I hear everything you just say. There's no reason to believe in Carson Beck. But this team was viewed just like 2-3 weeks ago as still a team that could go win a national championship. Up until last week, a team that could win a national championship. And they got smacked at Ole Miss. Maybe you don't need to be great this year to win a national championship. Like, let's just say in this new format, someone picks off Oregon. And then according to you, there's no other great team. It's like, can Georgia still find a way to win it all? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, but if Carson Beck continues to be the quarterback that he showed us for most of the season, then it's going to be tough to make that case.
And that, you look at their offense, they don't do anything well. Like, you can't rely on the run game. Georgia is 104th in the country in rushing yards per game. Georgia. With how physical that team has been, that offensive line's got pushed around.
The biggest issue.
But that's not my point. Like, their offense is so bad, they've not shown you any signs of even just playing competent football. Even some of the games they win, it's in spite of their quarterback play or playing closer than they should against other teams.
By the way, I have not been able to procure the video, but I was told that you were seen jumping up and down on the field after the game when you were at Happy Valley with some Ohio State fans, just like that Georgia kid was.
What are we doing?
Hickey, that idiot.
What are we doing? I give Kirby Smart a lot of credit. He could have taken the high road there.
No, but he apologized.
He
walked it back today.
He said it. You don't have to take it.
You go kill someone or be a part of that at Georgia. Kirby Smart won't call you an idiot, but if you jump up and down with the enemy, you're an idiot.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Program, make sure. What do we do?
It's very Penn State-like. Just happy to be there. Happy to be in the moment. Happy to show up.
I really don't get the whole participation state university
what do you mean?
Joke.
You're the only one that doesn't get it.
Like, you could say that about 95% of college football, though.
Yeah, but your coach is the only one that tries to make it out that they're like this great program when they're not.
I don't really think he does. Like, what does he say?
99.9% of the other programs would love to be us. Yeah, a guy rung a victory bell when they lost.
Well, again, I'm not really that. I don't even know what's going on, but other than that, he's not wrong.
Let me ask you this. So you told me you think Georgia will make the playoff.
Yes.
Out of the teams that were not in the bracket last night, you think Georgia will get in. Give me one more team that you think will get in.
I think SMU will beat Miami
in the ACC championship game.
But I want to throw a curveball by you here.
Ooh,
no one's talking about it.
I'm going to be
not
like
saying,
Aaron Judge. I'm going to swing and miss here?
You might. We'll see. I'm not saying this. I don't actually believe this yet, but I'm formulating it. Look at Army. Army's 24th in the country. They have a game coming up here against Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium in a few weeks. They win that game. Let's just say they win that game.
Okay.
You're in the AAC. You play Tulane in the championship game. You win, who's right now currently 25th. You have 2 ranked wins on your resume, undefeated. Are they really going to be behind Boise State?
Yes, 100%.
Who has a loss, who has no ranked victories? I don't know. I think Army gets in that case.
Oh.
If they beat Notre
Folks,
Dame.
Hold on. I got to talk to the listening audience on KTIK. This is Zach Gelb. I do not approve that message. That's Ryan Hot Take Hickey. They've been in the entire way. Why would the committee then leave them out for not losing a game? I don't think there's any
Well, they
chance.
lost one game already. They lost to Oregon.
No, but I'm saying they got in. They lost to Oregon by 3 points.
Right.
Why would the committee, after saying the entire way that they're in, they belong, they're the team that's the highest ranked non-Core 4 conference champ, why then, when they would not lose another game since the first ranking, why would they then get squeezed out?
Because a team jumped them. Like another team earned it. Like, why you're going to punish Army for 2 ranked victories because
but
they
you're
weren't ahead
punishing
of
Boise for doing nothing wrong.
But that's part of the deal. Like, your strength of schedule. Right? Aren't we talking about some of these teams here? Like that's part of the deal. Why would you punish Army if they beat Notre Dame? Again, I'm not saying again. It may not happen, and it probably won't happen. But if it does happen, and you have 2 ranked wins, and you're a conference champion, how can you not put them above Boise State right now?
And I don't want people thinking I'm being disrespectful to the troops. I love Bryson Daly. I love Army. There's like a low-hanging fruit joke here. I don't want people to think I'm Michael Strahan, even though I think all those people were so wrong to be criticizing Michael Strahan. You had dope showing up to his house to try to get a comment because his hand wasn't over his heart for the national anthem. I just think the whole conversation is ridiculous anyway, because Stu and I may be going to that Notre Dame Army game, but I just don't think Army is going to find the way to beat Notre Dame. Okay, let me get to your...
If they do, though. Put them in.
No, it's not going to happen. Let me get to your NFL team. There's what's going on right now with this phone?
No, I'm bringing up the strength of schedule for Army. They're 14th remaining strength of schedule.
Honestly, I don't know how much I could trust your stats. You said 2 top 16 wins. Only 1 team did it, and I disproved that in a second.
You can look it up. It's not my stat. Now I'm just reading from verified sources.
I think there's too much wax in that head of yours that it's starting to affect the way that you think and compute college football information. All right, let's get to the NFL. I'll give you credit. You were against this Anthony Richardson benching from the jump. They then lost their last 2 games, and I covered spreads in both of those weeks. Thank you very much. With the Colts going down not once but twice. They go back to Anthony Richardson. Now, I'm just going off the way that I am sensing your mood today. You're very moody today. You're not, even though you're happy they went back to him, you're not happy how this whole thing did go down, and you think the Colts are a disgrace.
I think how they've handled this is absolutely embarrassing. Like, they've handled it like a second-run organization where you benched him. You were very vague about why you benched him. Every time reporters ask Shane Steichen, why is he not playing? Why is he benched? It's process-oriented. There's no details.
Yeah. Can I tell you what this means?
Sure.
The coaching staff does not like Anthony Richardson. They've already given up on him.
So I have done some research here.
Ooh.
Is this
actual research
This
or
is
fake
actual
news research?
I've talked to some birdies here.
Ooh. Like sources?
I have talked to some sources.
Chip. The Hickey sources. I didn't know Hickey had sources.
What I have heard is that Anthony Richardson was benched as a punishment because he has really not put the work in that a quarterback really needs to do.
So he's lazy.
So you could say, and I think they won't say it, the tap out without a doubt, this is just me, no sourcing here, is definitely the final straw. So that, with you saying Joe Flacco's your guy for the rest of the year and 2 weeks later going back to Andy Richardson for now the rest of the year, I think they gave up on him. Rightfully so, you could say, if he's not putting in the work, like that's a bad job on the scouting. How you are unaware of a guy's work ethic before you draft him, to me, is mind-boggling. It's a bad look on Chris Ballard, bad look on Shane Steichen. I think at this point, with 7 games to go, Anthony Richardson is playing for his Colts career.
Yeah, obviously. I think his career is already over in Indianapolis because I don't think the coaching staff likes him or believes in him.
You could definitely say that. I mean, I don't know if a 2-week benching is actually going to, help turn him around.
Especially when he's yawning on the sideline during one of those games.
The Minnesota game's not a great look. Like, I didn't think that you had to tell a quarterback how to work. I guess you do.
So this is not just a source. This is sources.
One source.
One source.
That I trust very well.
One big source.
One big source that I trust very well.
Do I know this source?
No.
Oh, I don't?
Do not.
Someone in the building?
Not in the building.
Okay. Someone associated with the NFL, though?
Someone in the NFL realm. Who would know? Again, I'm not coming on the show.
Is this a media member? Is this a coach? Is this a player? Can you at least tell me one of those three things?
Media member, if
a
you
media
will,
member that covers the Colts.
Who knows the team very well. And
was he used to be a former podcast partner of yours?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I love George. So it's like, if it's about work ethic, then I can't blame the Colts. All I blame them for is just like how they handled it.
Time out. Taking a 30 here. This is what I don't get. I don't consider myself a newsbreaker. I'm not an insider. But I will have times where there's people in organizations or people associated with teams that will call me up and will say, hey, you may want to look into this. Or, hey, I may tell you to have this opinion because this is what's going on behind the scenes. That happens. If it's a media member, why wouldn't this media member just run with it himself? Why is he dumping the news over to Hickey to go spill the beans on the show? Or did this media member already maybe say this publicly and you're just
I don't know. I actually have not looked to see this. I don't know.
Okay, gotcha. I'm just asking. So Anthony Rich, the Colts don't think Anthony Richardson is putting in the work.
Correct. Which again, you could kind of decipher anyway by the tone of how they're talking. Yeah. They never talk about fundamentals or footwork or reading the field, but it makes sense when he looks lost on the field and he can't read anything because he's not watching the tape.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating. And there seemed to be almost a revolt in the Texans game, and it makes sense.
EP of the JR Sports Brief Show, host of Hick at Night, Sundays 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Time on Infinity Sports Network, still enrolled podcast co-host. Can we add Colts Insider?
I'm not sure if that's inside information.
I'm just saying, you have information there. You just gave us a report. I think you're now a Colts Insider. Not a lot of great Colts Insiders out there, let's be real. It's a small market.
Jeez, everyone taking shots at the Colts.
You're just lucky.
Just play well. That's all I'm asking. You just play well.
All right, I got a tweet. Leroy Jenkins tweets to me. Tell Hickey, Boise State is Washington State, ranked 18, only loss in a blowout. I don't really know what that means.
I don't either. I mean, Wazoo's played well this year. They beat Washington back when,
So I guess that's someone that is in.
Boise State didn't get blown out.
No,
and they lost by 3 to Oregon.
Yeah, they lost.
So their one loss was.
But you don't disrespect. You disrespect Boise State. You don't like Boise State.
I love Boise State. I'm literally laying out a scenario here of like it's assumed that Boise State is in. When you look at Army, they have chances again. Like this, we still have a long way to go. We got plenty of games to play out.
Can I ask you this? Did you think SMU should have been ranked in front of Miami?
I don't have a big issue with it. I didn't
because SMU's only loss was to BYU.
Correct.
Who you think is the best team in the second best team in the country.
And they have a really good resume.
So let me ask you this. Let's just play a little game here.
Sure.
Because you look at it in terms of on the field.
Correct.
I factor in everything.
And that's...
Because you're a little naive.
No, I'm not naive.
You are.
It's only about on-field performance.
But it's
nothing
not,
else should matter.
So let me ask you this.
That's the problem.
Why do you really think Miami is in front of SMU?
I mean,
there's two answers.
It's the brand.
It's the brand.
It's the brand.
And it's Cam Ward.
Which is ridiculous, but it's true because you hear any explanations that Ward Manuel has, they don't make sense.
So if you're trying to tell me that Army should be in front of Boise State, Boise's going to get in just because they have Ashton Genty, as long as they don't lose the game the rest of the year. That's what I would say to you.
I don't know.
They should.
I don't. Again, if you
beat
Notre Dame,
I'm telling you what's going to happen.
If you beat a top 10 team in a neutral site,
they're not going to beat Notre Dame though. That's like saying,
why not?
Hey Zach, I'm going to go on a date with Beyonce tonight. It's just not happening.
Stu, are you nervous about that game? Be real.
He's not.
More nervous about USC.
All right, Stu. All right.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not the guy. I'm not the I told you so guy.
Hickey throwing a lifeline. I'm throwing a lifeline out there thinking Stu's going to help him out. Jeez.
I'm not the I told you so guy, but let me tell you, you'll both
You
get a
are
text
the I told you
on
so guy.
Saturday night. Oh boy, if Army wins,
Hold on.
you'll be getting a few texts.
You are the I told you so guy. when you get one college football take right in about the 3,000 that you throw out there, for every 3,000 you do, right away, folks, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Well, on Twitter, yes. But I know some Miami fans that were giving me a lot of hell for what I said about Miami last week, and I did not text them. I could have really dug the knife in there. I said, you know what? I try to tell them. They learn the hard way. Yeah. I'm going to let them eat that.
The last thing, though, that I will bring up, because I haven't had a chance to bring this up to you since the last time we talked.
Okay.
You have now done the I told you so twice about the Cincinnati Bengals being the best team to take down the Chiefs. And the 2 times you did it, they lost both games.
To the Ravens, ironically, in the last minute. Just close the game. It is
so even when you say I told you so, it's maybe it won't even be
and
I will say,
I had a draft ready when I said they're going to march down the field, they're going to score a touchdown, they're going to go for 2 and win the game. I had that ready when they scored a touchdown. I said, let's go. Let's go. Score one for Hickey. And then, of course, Joe Burrow decides to not look at an open Jamar Chase in the back of the end zone.
Oh, one more thing that I'm seeing on your Twitter real quickly.
Sure.
The road of the college football playoff runs through the Big Ten is what you're saying?
Correct. Yes.
Explain.
Well,
what do you mean by that?
Oregon, I think it's the Big Ten championship to lose in the sense of Oregon's the best team in the country, right? I think they're the favorites to win the national title.
Yeah.
And you look at how the bracket laid out, there is a chance here if Indiana plays close or even beats Ohio State. You're looking at 3 of the 4 playoff games in the first round being played at Big Ten schools, which you have to assume that, again, that gives you an advantage to win that game. And then with Miami, SMU, BYU, you could be, along with Oregon, favored in 2 of those 3
but
playoff games.
Oregon and Ohio State are the only 2 teams I really fear in the Big Ten. Like, if the bracket holds and Ole Miss is playing Penn State, Ole Miss is going to win that game.
I don't think so, but okay.
Well, you also didn't think Ole Miss was going to beat Georgia.
That's true.
Lane Kiffin now can win a big game. Can't say that about James Franklin. Alabama plays Indiana. You think Alabama's losing Indiana?
Indiana's a good team. Indiana's a really good team.
Look how disloyal he is.
What do you mean disloyal?
Friend of the show, Kalen DeBoer.
This has nothing to do with Kalen DeBoer. I'm not taking a shot at his coaching. I'm giving props to a team that deserves it.
I will. When that time comes, we will make a wager on when some of these SEC teams play the Big Ten teams outside Ohio State and Oregon.
Here we go.
Outside of those 2. That's my whole argument.
We'll see how the bracket shakes out.
Hickey, good stuff, even though you gave us some erroneous stat in the beginning, which now we will hold against you for the rest of your existence.
My apologies to the listening audience. I'm sorry.
There he is, Colts insider, Ryan Hot Take Hickey on the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So I just tagged Elon Musk on a tweet of mine, which earlier I had a little disclaimer that if you're leaving X or Twitter, I don't care, basically just to zip it. So I don't know if he's going to respond to me. I doubt that he will. But Stu, if you had to guesstimate how many Twitter followers Elon Musk has, what would your guesstimation be? It's in the millions. Obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely in the millions. I would say...
Well, can I just... Give me a famous person real quickly. Give me like a famous person you think has a large social media following.
LeBron James.
Okay. LeBron James. Let's see how many X followers, Twitter followers LeBron James does have. 53 million for LeBron James. So how many do you think Mr. Musk has?
Let's go 35 million.
Not even close. Not even close. Next guess?
Okay, I'll say like 5 million then.
Wait, you think lower?
So it's actually higher.
Guy runs the website.
Wow. I know, but he runs the website. Like, he's not like an athlete or a...
Has a lot of money.
400 million.
It's going to be in Trump's cabinet.
400 million.
204.5 million.
Wow. That's insane.
I wonder how many are real.
That's also, yeah.
I thought you were going to go higher still. I'm not lying. Like, when I threw LeBron out there, I thought you would go above LeBron. And then I thought when I was like, oh, no, not even close, you would just keep on going like
it's crazy.
Creed, like, can I take you higher? That's what I thought you were going to do, but that was not the case there. All righty. Anyway, let's get to a little contender-pretender right now when it comes to the college football team. Stu, you're going to give me the team. I'm going to tell you if they are a contender or a pretender. And I guess it's to win the national championship. Let's see how many teams I could see winning the national championship. Now, just a little disclaimer. We're not going to do Oregon. We're not going to do Ohio State because those are two obvious contenders. So those are two. Let's see how many more we could enter into the fold in this conversation.
All right. What about Texas, who only has that one loss on the season to Georgia?
Yeah, I'm still curious if they could win a big game, but they did make the college football playoff last year. And I like the way that they're built in the trenches. So I will say Texas is a contender.
All right. Another team that had a loss to a very good team, and that's Penn State, who lost to Ohio State.
I think the best that could ever go for Penn State this year would be to win a playoff game, which I'm still extremely skeptical if they could do that. I think they are a pretender. We kind of saw the real Penn State stand up against Ohio State, and it was not pretty. So pretender for Penn State.
All right. And one more Big Ten team, Indiana, who's 10-0.
Maybe one of my favorite stories this year in college football. They are a phenomenal team, but I don't think that they're going to make the college football playoff. But do I think they're winning 4 games in the college football playoff to win a national championship? That's a no for me, dog. So I will say pretender.
And then another undefeated team at the moment, BYU.
I'm going to say a pretender. And here's something to watch out for. You want to see a fishy line and a fishy spread? So Kansas last week beat Iowa State. They lost the week prior to Kansas State by 2. The week before that, they smashed Houston 42-14. So maybe this is a spot coming off a win. We have overrated Kansas, even though they're only 3-6. But BYU is home. Usually the home team is a 3-point favorite. BYU right now is only a 2.5-point favorite. That's a fishy line. I think that's a line that Vegas is telling you, we expect Kansas to win. We want everyone to load up on BYU. I'm going to say BYU's a pretender. I think Colorado is actually going to win the Big 12 this year, and they're going to get in over BYU. And I love the BYU story with Retzlaff, and Satake's been very good to us. But the last few weeks, we've seen BYU come back down to earth a bit and be lucky to win some of those games. Now, you'd rather win those games than lose those games. But I do think that BYU is alive to go down this week up against Kansas with that fishy spread. So I'll say a pretender.
All right. What about Tennessee with only one loss?
I'm going to say a contender, and it's contingent on them beating Georgia this weekend. And I don't know if Nico Iamaleava is going to play. But if they get first half Nico Iamaleava with the way that defense has been out throughout all the year, where we thought the offense is going to be the strength, it's actually the defense, I could then see Tennessee being a contender.
All right, what about Notre Dame? Obviously, that one loss to Northern Illinois.
Kind of in that Penn State category where they win a lot of games, but what are the games that they actually win, and are they of anything of significance? I think if everything goes right this year for Penn State, they win one playoff game, but I don't see them winning more than that, so I will say they are a pretender.
All right, what about Miami, who finally lost a game this weekend?
They could win the ACC. It's wonderful. It's spectacular. Even if they would have won last week, I tweeted this out, and then a bunch of sites did write about it. Miami, even before they lost, showed you why they're not a national championship contender. They're just a contender to win the ACC. So a national championship contender, they are a pretender.
All right, couple 2-loss teams here. Let's start with Alabama.
Moving on up. Alabama, holy smokes, their defense the last 3 weeks, awesome. And then also their offense, it's gambling. Milroe is either horrible or he is ridiculously good. But with their victory this past weekend and what they were able to do and just smash LSU, and they already beat Georgia, they are a contender.
All right, what about Ole Miss, obviously with that big win against Georgia?
We've seen Ole Miss become a gritty, really good defensive team. Where you usually think Ole Miss would be, okay, will their defense just be able to be serviceable? The defense right now, especially up against Georgia, played better than the offense. I think Ole Miss, with their defense, and if Dart could get to be the Dart that we thought he could be, I think they're a contender.
All right, and speaking of Georgia, what about them?
As I said to Hickey, and I'll use the devil advocate argument here, Georgia's not a great team this year. But how many great teams are there really in the college football playoff? Now there's more access to the playoffs. You could have one of those teams get picked off. Carson Beck, he is fraudulent, and I've been on that train for a while, but maybe he could put it together for a few weeks and get a run going. That defense still has the capability of being really damn good. Dare I say great. They'll get in the playoff, and they're going to be a team that you don't want to see come playoff time. So I'll say Georgia's a contender. All
right, about Boise State, obviously that one close loss against Oregon.
I'm going to say a pretender. They'll make the college football playoff. Ashton Genty will be a Heisman Trophy finalist, but to go win 4 games in the college football playoff, I don't see it. Whoever's the 5 seed, I get it. Hey, if it's Ohio State, I think Ohio State's going to win. But if it's not Ohio State, I think Boise State would be alive, very much so alive to win. They have a big-time program feel mentality, or maybe they could even beat Ohio State. But I'm going to say a pretender to win the national championship.
All right, and last one, what about Colorado, who has a chance to win the Big 12?
Their offense is sexy. Their defense is sexy now, especially that performance of Amari McNeil. I think they will win the Big 12, but I'm not going to pick them to then be a team that I could see going on some run. They could win one playoff game, but I don't think they're going to be able to win multiple playoff games, so I'm going to say pretender for Colorado. All right, we'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We will get to a news brief next. Update time first, though. Here he is, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And the Spurs announced today that head coach Greg Popovich suffered a stroke recently. The 75-year-old is expected to make a complete recovery after it occurred back on November 2nd before a home game. There is no timetable on his return. The Cavaliers go for their 13th straight to open the season tonight when they meet the Sixers in Philly. Cleveland is off to the best start of any team in the NBA right now, and the 8th team in history to win its first 12. 5 of the 7 previous teams that did it went all the way to the NBA Finals. The Sixers tonight will be without both Joel Embiid and Paul George, who are sitting out the second game of back-to-back nights. Anthony Richardson's time on the bench is over. The former 4th pick overall is back as the Colts starter and will be under center this weekend when they take on the Jets. The Jaguars' Trevor Lawrence will miss his second straight game due to an injured left shoulder. The Commanders have ruled out Marshawn Lattimore for tomorrow night due to his injured hamstring. And the Chiefs opened the practice windows on Isaiah Pacheco and Charles Omenihu, but neither is expected to return this weekend. And the Bears have released veteran guard Nate Davis. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty, earlier, Hot Take Hickey gave us an erroneous stat. By the way, Stu, how stupid of a stat was that anyway? You know, they're the only team to have 2 top 16 losses this year. Or be 2 top 16 teams or something. Have you ever heard anyone ever talk about top 16 victories? I can't hear you for some reason. Is
Maybe
your microphone on? There we
top
go.
10, top 25,
Yeah.
top 5, not top 16.
Yeah, it's just been like the number 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Never
top 16
2
is
top
very
16
weird.
victories. And then I automatically dispelled that right away. I wasn't even trying. I was like, well, does Oregon not exist? They beat a top 16 team, and obviously Ohio State, and then obviously Boise State. But I do my homework, even when I can't even prepare for something. Aaron Rodgers is following the Hot Take Hickey method, or maybe Hot Take Hickey's following the Aaron Rodgers method, because they saw an erroneous stat, and Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee both ran with it on the Pat McAfee show. Listen up.
The amazing stat, though, is this a true stat that he's done 4 more picks 7 times and he's won every single one of those games? Is that real?
Yep, 7-0.
That's wild. I mean, that's why stats are for what Big Mike used to say.
I think Big Mike would say what stats are for losers. That's what Belichick used to say. So I had a moment of panic when I saw this clip yesterday, Stu. I thought we also gave a fake stat out. Because I remember we gave a stat out during the Lions-Texans game, and I'm like, oh, did we give that stat out? Were we duped by that as well? And then if that's the case, then I can't make fun of Aaron Rodgers. I can't make fun of Hot Take Hickey. But the stat we gave out was something along the lines of, like, the only team to beat a team after throwing 5 interceptions in a game since, like, 2012 or something like that. But I thought the stat they were talking about was going viral, since I didn't remember our stat was the stat that we actually gave. But the stat we gave was correct. The stat that Rodgers gave was fugazi. So Fox was honoring, obviously, the military for Veterans Day on Sunday. And the national anthem was being played, and everyone had their hands over their heart, and besides Michael Strahan. So everyone's getting on Michael Strahan, which is so stupid. Like, I'm not saying, hey, don't respect the anthem. I would not get on the radio and say that. But just because your hand isn't over your heart doesn't mean that you hate the military, especially when Strahan's had family members serve in the military, And I don't think Michael Strahan is anti-military. And supposedly he donates a lot of money to the military as well. But this has gone viral. And Michael Strahan even had a reporter come to his house yesterday, and he kind of smacked the phone away, which I don't blame him. You got to give people some personal space. But this is Michael Strahan on not having his hand over his heart during the national anthem.
Everyone thought he's protesting. He's making a statement, which is so far from the truth. I have nothing to protest. I have no statement to be made. The only statement that should be made and that I want to make is I love the military. I've always loved the military, and I will always love the military. I do so many programs to help veterans and soldiers. I grew up on a military base with a father who's a major in the Army. My brother, my sister, my cousins, they all served in the military. I'm a military brat. And so the fact of somebody saying that, I'm unpatriotic couldn't be any further from the truth. And if you want the truth, I'll tell you the truth, is that I was caught up in the moment. I'm just sitting there in amazement. And by the time I looked up from that moment, all my 5 guys had their hands over their hearts, the national anthem playing. I somewhat panicked, and I'm like, do I be the fool that puts his hand over his heart after? Or do I just stand here with my hand in front of me respectfully? Which that's what I did. And if that offended any of our military and veterans, I apologize to you, because that was never my intent.
Michael Strahan's a good dude. You don't need to apologize. I'm sorry. And I have not been in his shoes before, but I remember doing a show on 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia. And I would argue it was maybe some of the best 15 to 20 minutes of radio I've ever done. And it was going back to when Donald Trump, President Trump, said, hey, I wish when sometimes players aren't standing for the national anthem, the owners would yank them, I think call them son of bitches off the field or something like that. And I did a 15 to 20 minute rant, and I thought it was great radio. I did. First call I take, you hate the military. Second call I take, you hate cops. Third call I take, you hate the military. Fourth call, you hate this country. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I go, you want to come down to the studio? I go, I have an NYPD sticker on my car. On my car. And also, I've had family members serve in the military. So this idea that I hate the military or I hate cops was just crazy. But, I don't think Michael Strahan owes anyone anything there. Tell everyone to bleep off. That's what I would do. I think people are just looking for things there. On FS1, Deion Sanders was asked if he had any interest in coaching the Drama Dallas Choking Cowboys.
No place needs people to encourage people to be better than they really are, besides Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know you focus day to day. I know you're a day-to-day man. But can you think about some days?
Let me take the computer here, because you starting to talk that talk. I got to show you where I am. I love it where I am.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I love it where I am. I love it.
You already know you're going with it.
I love it where I am.
We'll have more to say on Deion Sanders' future coming up in about 10 minutes. Let's go to Kirby Smart. He called Jake Pope an idiot for jumping up and down with family friends who also have their son on Ole Miss. And that was a scene that went viral. So Kirby called Jake Pope an idiot, and then today he apologized for that.
Yeah, I don't like to comment on the internal stuff going on inside. He did talk to the team, did a great job. I'll say I should not have called the kid an idiot. That was a mistake by me, but I appreciate Jake. He's a great kid. He works really hard. He's a team player. I think he knows it was a emotional mistake, and he told the team that. So I appreciate the way he handled it.
Almost makes it seem like he had no clue who the kid was when he refers to him as the kid. Then he goes, Jake. Here's Steph Curry on the first time squaring off against Klay Thompson.
The emotions at the pregame of him, being acknowledged, and the crowd during two-line layups going crazy for him. The video tribute, and I'm so surprised they ran a post up for him on the first play. I blacked out on that one. I wasn't gonna let him score, and I fouled him. But it was a pretty special night all the way around. Obviously, we won. It was a great finish, but well done all the way around.
All righty, let's hear it up for Eric Spoelstra last night. Had a little Chris Webber situation at the end of the game. Here's Coach Eric Spoelstra.
There's really no excuse for that. I'm 17 years in. When we had talked about it in the huddle, I knew that we didn't have anything. I just got emotional and reactive on that, and I just made a horrendous mistake there at the end.
No, it happens. Just ask Chris Webber. So, are you excited at all, Stu, for this Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight?
No, not really.
So, my chiropractor is a big sports fan. He knows what I do. And he goes, oh, you going to the fight this week? And I go, yeah, I am. He goes, oh, you going? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Madison Square Garden for UFC 309. That's what I thought he was talking about with John Jones and Stipe Miocic. And Michael Chandler's also making his return after Conor McGregor was a putty cat. But I knew the fight was Friday, but I've never heard anyone ask me about this fight. And then I talked to two other of my friends because we're interviewing a few UFC guys tomorrow on the show. And they're like, oh, are you going to ask, the two UFC guys about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? And I'm like, people actually care about this? So let's listen up to Mike Tyson.
Your kids are out here. Everyone's coming in to see you on Friday. What does it mean to have family with you?
It's the family's everything. But my kids, to my children, I'm nobody. But that night, they're going to find out their father's very special. So the night of the fight, they're going to realize they better watch it next time they talk crap to me.
I'm the most ruthless, I'm the most heartless champion in the world. Nobody can stop me. I'm the best ever. One of the great lines of all time. Here's the thing. I have no clue what to expect out of Mike Tyson. I don't know about you, Stu, if it comes up in your algorithm. I see some videos where he looks horrible, and then I see some videos where he looks like he's vintage Mike Tyson. So I hope you get the vintage or as close to vintage Mike Tyson as possible, because if it's the horrible version of Mike Tyson, I'm going to feel like Bad Dead when he gets punched. Here is Caleb Williams on some reports that the veterans on the team wanted him benched.
No, I think those guys are, good, easy. We talk about it. I think I got full support from them. I've gotten texts or calls or people coming up to me, with this situation that just happened, coming up to me and saying, we got your back, we're with you, things like that, and let's go. That kind of mindset and attitude has been what it's been this past couple of days, and that's kind of what it's only been.
I don't know about you, Stu. I feel bad for him. I really do. He sounds just uncomfortable, knowing that there's definitely some in that locker room that even though people go out of their way to kind of like pick you up, there's definitely some in that locker room that don't think you should be starting for this team. That was very uncomfortable audio when I go back and hear that. All righty, let's hear quickly DJ Moore talk about Shane Waldron, who's now no longer the OC with the Bears.
The primary things he was looking to change was the in-game communication. What do you think was lacking with the in-game communication from play caller to players?
I want to say probably like when we want to call, or it's probably like a drive too late, or like we wanted to make adjustments and we just wait till halftime to make it, and then we don't get the same look. So I can see what he mean by that right there.
Whew. That's the bus. Back it up on already the body of Shane Waldron, which is already dead. Throw more gasoline on the fire, why don't you, DJ Moore? Oof, that's a bad look for Shane Waldron. All righty, hour number 2 in the books, but come on back with hour number 3. When we return, what is Coach Prime's future? How much longer will he be at Colorado? Will he go to the NFL? Will he go somewhere else in college? What are we going to see with Coach Prime? We'll get into that in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's play it for you one more time. Michael Irvin yesterday, obviously on FS1, interviewing Coach Prime. on Speak for Yourself. And Coach Prime was asked about maybe having a little interest in the drama Dallas choking Cowboys job. Here it is.
No place needs people to encourage people to be better than they really are, besides Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know you focus day to day. I know you're a day-to-day man. But can you think about some days?
Let me take the computer here, because you starting to talk that talk. I got to show you where I am. I love it where I am.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I love it where I am. I love it.
You already know you're going with it.
I love it where I am.
So I think it's easy to get on the radio, and I think it's easy to say, hey, you didn't hear him say no. You heard him just say, I loved where I am, and I love where I am right now. Now, with that being said, I know the history, and I know what Coach Prime has said. He said he has no interest in coaching in the NFL. Now, just because you say that doesn't mean that that's truthful. How many times did we hear Nick Saban say, I'm not going to be the head coach at Alabama? And guess what he did? He left the Dolphins and he became the head coach at Alabama. So just because someone says, I am not going to leave or I am not interested, doesn't mean that they're going to stay. And I appreciate Colorado fans because it's almost how dedicated they are now and how you're leading the charge. And it's like, we're going to embarrass, we're going to poke fun at anyone saying that Coach Prime's going to leave, and you have to take him for his word. I appreciate that passion, but I don't have to take him for his word. Because even though people will tell me, but Coach Prime is different, Coach Prime appreciates a school that actually gave him a chance, sure. Doesn't mean he's ungrateful if he leaves. Doesn't mean he's not appreciative of what did transpire. I don't think anyone knows what Coach Prime's going to do. But the idea that Coach Prime is so different that he won't be like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry that has coached college football, and when a bigger job comes calling, he wouldn't take it. If you're going to immediately dismiss anyone that says, hey, there's no way Coach Prime isn't going to leave, I think that's asinine. I do. Now, it's not me saying I believe Coach Prime is going to leave, but I think it's on the table. I do tend to believe him, though, that he's not going to be coaching in the NFL. I do think NFL programs are going to come calling. You know, we'll see the jobs that open up. We already know that when you take a look around the NFL landscape, the Saints are open. So there's jobs that are open. The Jets are open. You know, Chicago should be open at the end of the year. Like, there's going to be 6 or 7 jobs that are open. Will at least one of those NFL teams call up Coach Prime or call Coach Prime's representatives and say, hey, are you interested? Absolutely. I have a tough time, though, seeing Coach Prime coach in the NFL, at least in the immediate future. And he said this before, that the NFL, right, it's not a my way or highway. Not that it's that way at Colorado, but there's a lot of egos that are more present in the NFL that are tougher to navigate, I think, than in college football. And those guys, right, in the NFL, they go home, they got families, they got lives. I think Coach Prime really enjoys developing kids that are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And I think that was a big misnomer about Coach Prime, because he came in saying, like, oh, I'm going to bring my Louis and all that. And, hey, they brought in Travis Hunter. They brought in Shedeur Sanders. And they've been 2 of the better players in college football. But look at the roster, the way that they revamped it, a lot of it through the transfer portal. But look at the improvements that you've seen from a lot of these players. This team is more than just Shedeur. This team is more than just Travis. There has been a lot of development that has gone on with this program with resources that aren't the same and in the same category, even though they've improved the NIL immensely, compared to some of the resources that you have in bigger programs. So I do think Coach Prime, to me, is more of a college coach. and I do think he's going to stay in college. But it doesn't mean that he's going to stay at Colorado. If you put a gun to my head, I do think Coach Prime is going to be back at Colorado next year. But is Coach Prime going to be the coach at Colorado 5 years from now? That I'm not so certain. And maybe he just walks away. Maybe he said, hey, I shut everybody up. I proved how great of a coach I was. And I'm good. I'm going to go chill and count my Benjamins that I've earned throughout my life as a player and also as a coach. And I don't need to do this. And I'll just go back to the media world. That's definitely a possibility. But you're telling me, and I don't know if it's going to be Florida State because he's not happy with his alma mater. But you're telling me a bigger program opens up in the next 2 or 3 years and they call Coach Prime that he's definitely going to stay at Colorado? That I'm not so certain about. And I also think now there's going to be a little intrigue. You know when LaFleur didn't have Rodgers anymore and people were like, oh, what's Matt LaFleur without Aaron Rodgers? There's going to be a little bit of that in terms of what is Coach Prime as a football coach without Shedeur and without Travis Hunter. I do think that conversation is going to be very, very present in the next year. So I do believe there's still a little motivation and still a box that is left to be checked at Colorado that Coach Prime is going to be looking to check it. But once you check that box, and hey, we don't know what determines you checking that box. Is it just getting bowl eligibility back-to-back years? If that's the case, and I think that's a fair case, then that box is checked. But Colorado now is a destination, and it's a destination because of one man and one man only. Like as great as Shedeur is, as great as Travis Hunter is, that job is a destination because of who is the head coach. So I always think they'll be relevant. I'm not going to say that they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game every year. I'm not going to say they're going to win the Big 12 championship every year. I'm not even saying they're going to be bowl eligible every year. But they will be relevant. They will be talked about. Like, remember when Paul Feinbaum this past summer said, oh, Colorado's irrelevant? You know, tell me when they do something on the field. You don't have to do something on the field necessarily to always be relevant. Colorado, as long as Coach Prime is there, is talked about. And that is the biggest fear of Colorado fans right now, is what happens if Coach Prime does leave. Because the moment he leaves, then yes, the program becomes irrelevant. You go back to where you were. You may be able to survive for a year, but now at the transfer portal, all those players are going to leave the moment Coach Prime leaves. And I lived it, right? I had an irrelevant school that I went to in the college football landscape. And I know it's not apples to apples. But when Matt Rule was at Temple, that became a relevant program. That became a program that beat Penn State for the first time in 74 years. They beat Vanderbilt. They had College Game Day come to Philadelphia. And in a short few years after Matt left, the program became irrelevant. There are moments where, and I know Colorado's had national success before, like the highest national success ever. But there are moments when the team that's counted out could be relevant. But when you look back at it, it's really on who's the coach, especially in college, and how long he's able to stay there. So I don't think Coach Prime's going to the NFL. I know it's a sexy idea. Oh, he'll go team up with Travis. He'll go team up with Shedeur. That's not going to happen. I would be very surprised if Coach Prime is coaching in the NFL within the next year, 2 or 3. But even with the similarities that college and the NFL now have because of the name, image, and likeness, I'm not ruling it out that, hey, just because Coach Prime talks about how much he loves Colorado, he's appreciative of the opportunity, that he won't leave. I think that is a very real, genuine possibility. I'm not saying it's happening this offseason. I don't think it's going to happen this offseason. But within the next 5 years, whether it's him leaving college, whether it's him going to another college, I do think that Coach Prime, within the next 5 years, is going to depart Boulder, Colorado. And when that does happen, if you're a Colorado fan, you should say 2 words. Thank you. That's what you should say. I'm not saying you can't be disappointed, because all these fun times then are going to quickly evaporate and going to quickly go away. But Coach Prime elected to go to your university, made them relevant again, brought Shedeur, brought Travis with them, potentially 2 Heisman Trophy candidates, and one could be the winner of the award. And if Colorado wins out in the regular season, they're in the Big 12 championship game. They control their own destiny to get to the Big 12 championship game. And also, they would be very much so alive, and I mean very much so alive, to take down BYU in the Big 12 championship game if they are, in fact, going up against BYU. All righty, real quickly, I want to get to something about Aaron Rodgers. So 2 games ago, because they beat the Texans and then they lost to the Arizona Cardinals. So it's 2 games ago. I was at the Texans-Jets game, and I went into that game with the Jets being, they were 2-5 entering that game. And they were entering that game, they were 2-5. And I thought to myself, what's the story going into this one? The story is, they were 2-6. They were 2-6 going into that Texans game. And the story going into that game was the Jets are a disaster. And then after the first half went the way that it did, where the Jets were lifeless, I thought to myself, what's the point of Aaron Rodgers sticking around? What's the point of Aaron Rodgers coming back next season? So I did what a good media member does. I walked down to the press conference, let more important questions or the guys that cover the team regularly ask their questions. And then I found a little lane that opened up, and I said, hey, Aaron, I know you had an incredible second half last night. I know the team won, and they're 3-6. But with only 8 regular season games left at the time, and you turning 41 in about a month, I'm just curious, has the idea that these next 2 months could be your last in the NFL, has it crossed your mind? That was my question. And Aaron looked at me. You could tell he wasn't going to answer the question, right? He wasn't going to expand upon the question that much in his answer. He chuckled, and he was like, I thought the chuckle was like, hey, nice try. I think he patted me on the head and said, hey, Zach Gelb, nice try. And then he said no. Well, today, about an hour ago, Aaron Rodgers, when talking to the media, we have this sound? All right, let's play it. Go ahead. Here is the Aaron Rodgers sound from an hour ago. Listen up.
You talked about wanting to play beyond this year. Yeah. Has the way this season gone for you or as a team changed that thought at all?
Not really. Not for the negative. No, not really.
Do you still want to play in 2025?
I think so, yeah.
So I guess technically he didn't lie to me, because I said, has it crossed your mind that these are the last 2 months of your career? It has technically crossed his mind, but when you ask that question, I'm basically asking, are you going to consider retirement after this season? And the way that he just answered that question was basically, I plan on coming on back next year. I don't think it's turned towards the negative. So it looks like the Jets are going to have to run it back next year with Aaron Rodgers, right? You'll have Devontae Adams, you'll have Garrett Wilson, you have Breece Hall. I'm sure there's going to be analysts at some point in the offseason, Stu, you know this. They're going to get on all these hot take shows and go, the Jets last year were a disaster, but they have so much talent. We'll see who ends up taking over that head coaching job. And some will try to make the case for the Jets to make the playoffs next year. But Stu, I just can't take the bait. I can't. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, quite frankly, I'd retire. You are a Hall of Famer. First ballot. You're perceived to be a top 10 quarterback of all time. Yes, you didn't win a second Super Bowl. That's disappointing. But I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze to come on back and play next year. I don't. And if I'm him, I would walk away, even though it's tough to go out like this, and just start that clock from ticking on down until when your eligibility starts to then open up for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I just don't see the gain outside of the addiction and the love for football and Rodgers' other interests outside of football, why Rodgers would want to go back to the Jets next year, unless if it's just his hubris, where he's so overconfident and he just doesn't see the downfall that has transpired still.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he should, but I think he absolutely will be back next season.
So do I.
I'd be stunned if he's not back.
I wouldn't be stunned. I think he'll be back. If I had to say it right now, and it shows you how fugazi he was, right? When I went into the cave, I went into the mindset that I was going to retire. And then I emerged from the darkness retreat. And I said, let me go to the Jets. I see the Jets as the light to the end of this tunnel, which is just so stupid looking back at it. But if I am the odds makers here, and 100% I'd say there's a back with the Jets next year, I think there's an 88% chance. And then I think there's a little bit carved out to retirement. And then I think there's the smallest percent chance, like a 1% chance, that he tries to go somewhere else this offseason. But I do think that he's going to be back. But, like, we know Jets fans could be suckers. Are they really going to hype? I know that this team thought they were back after beating the Texans and they got smacked by the Cardinals. Is there any reason to believe, Stu, and you've been around a lot of train wrecks before as NFL franchises, is there any reason to believe that next year is going to be any different?
Don't think so. No, it can't be. Right?
Like, I guess it could get a little bit better, right?
Maybe they're a 7-win team.
Can it get any worse? I would hope not. But I just don't see what the game would be for Aaron Rodgers to come on back next season, outside of the fact that he just wants to. And it's never easy to walk away from something that you've been around and you loved for so many years. So that's the latest on Aaron Rodgers. So any Jet fan that said, oh, you're ridiculous for asking that question. No, I was just ahead of the curve. Because that's what we do here on the Zach Gelb Show. The Zach Gelb Show, where we're ahead of the curve. People now are getting this soundbite 2 weeks later. 2 weeks ago, I came up with the idea. It's like amazing. I should start a common sports network. A common sense sports network. That's what I should do. CSSN. Now I'm starting to sound like Antonio Brown, the antithesis of common sense, with his CTESPN or whatever he does. But it's just like there's common sense things where the storyline is obvious and it's right in front of your face, and for some reason people just don't get smacked in the face by the storyline. All righty, we'll take a break. Got some reactions by what the College Football Playoff Committee did last night and what it means moving forward. We'll get into that. We will be back in 5 minutes right here on the Zach Gelb Show. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks could be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields guards and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, I'll get to some college football playoff rankings in just a second. Stu, I got to ask you a question, though. How many fantasy leagues are you in? Let me guess here.
Sure.
3?
Nailed it.
Really?
Yes, 3.
Yeah, I felt like you're definitely more than a one fantasy league guy. I could see yourself 4 or 5 years ago.
It was probably over 5.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I can see you being a compulsive fantasy
And then I
football
almost
player.
got to a point where I gave it up because I was tired of it. But then friend groups from like college, and I'm just like, all right, it's just fun. Why not?
Okay, so you're in 3 fantasy leagues.
Yes.
It is tough to manage more than one fantasy team. Because if one team's doing better than the other, like the priority's placed on the other, or you're winning one league and it's like, okay, the other league's close, but I know I'm going to at least get one victory. It's a lot to actually manage. So I'm in 2. I'm in 2 fantasy leagues. I'm in a work fantasy league here that was organized by Pat Boyle. And then I'm in another league with my home friends, like my close core group of home friends. So there are times, right, when you're in a fantasy league where you're up by so much in like the middle of a Sunday, you just like forget to check it because your players are already set. You're projected to win by so much, and you may not check it right away, right? Like you could relate to that.
Definitely. Yep.
So I was playing Manny Rodriguez, who works on the Maggie and Perloff show here on the Infinity Sports Network. And when I was playing Manny, I was up by so much, I was kicking his ass, that I didn't even think to look at it. And quite frankly, it'd be a little bit beneath me to text Manny and be like, hey, nah, you lost. Like, I wouldn't do something like that. I'm a mature adult. I would never enjoy someone losing to me, obviously, in something and kind of just take the knife and stab it in their back. So I looked at that league today, and I looked at that league because I knew I had someone on a bye and I had to pick up somebody else, or I had an injury and I had to put the guy on IR and then pick up somebody else. And I saw I won. I go, okay, let me just check the score. I beat Manny. I had 134.76 points. 134.76. Manny had 134.7. So I don't know how I got that extra. I don't know how that did go about. I've only usually seen it like 1 decimal point afterwards. But I beat Manny 134.76 to his team having 134.7. I've never seen anything like that in fantasy football.
That is absurdly close. I don't think I have ever had a loss or win by that small of a
I had
margin.
a tie in my home league this year. Not me. My friends, though, tied. So, since I didn't pay attention to it, did we tie and they gave me that little extra percentage just because I was the home team? I genuinely do not know how I won this game. And when I pull up my app and I look at the app and I'm looking at my points, let me see. I have to go back and do the math later. I'm not going to do this right now and bore you guys with the math. Already the fantasy football talk probably.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to do that. But I would love to see, did I actually beat him or did I just win because we were tied and maybe there's like a rule in the Boyle rules where he just, if you're tied, one team has to win, it's whoever is the home team. So I did tweet that out today. I did not even text Manny. I tweeted it out. Hey, Maggie Gray and Andrew Perloff, can you get my dear friend? See, I'm a nice guy. Manny Rodriguez some breakfast this week, please. I heard he had a tough fantasy loss this past week. And it makes me seem like I'm actually paying attention to this thing. I sent it out on a Wednesday because I wasn't paying attention to it. So, Manny Rodriguez, if you want to give Maggie and Perloff a call tomorrow, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227, and just ask Manny how he's doing. All right, we got to check on friends here. When other friends are down and out, we got to be nice people. We got to go check on friends. All right, let's get to the college football playoff rankings. So I don't really have that many big takeaways from last night. I thought they got the 12 teams right. If you want to say the order is a little messed up, okay, be my guest. But I thought my biggest takeaways were this. Georgia, after their second loss, being ranked the 12th team, even though they were on the outside looking in because Boise State gets in because they would be the conference champion, the 5 highest ranked conference champions do get in. I do think it's encouraging for Georgia that if they win out, being 12th in their lowest moment right now, that they would still make the college football playoff. I also wanted to see last night where Indiana would be. And Indiana, the reason I was so intrigued by, they had their biggest game of the season next week up against Ohio State. So if Indiana was kind of closer to 12 than they were to 1, I would say, I don't give the committee the benefit of the doubt to keep Indiana in if Indiana, let's say, got steamrolled by Ohio State in a few weeks. The fact that Indiana was ranked 5 by the committee and 5th by the committee makes me think that even with they lost to Ohio State, as long as Indiana wins their next game after that they will be in the college football playoff. And the other two things that I learned from last night is that there's no doubt about it, the ACC is only getting 1 team in. I didn't think that was up for much debate. Would they get 2 teams in? But the committee obviously favors Miami over SMU. I thought there was a case maybe SMU would jump Miami, but I thought because of the Brandon Cam Ward that Miami would still get the ranking. But it really doesn't matter. Assuming we see Miami and SMU play in the ACC title game, the winner of that game will get a spot, and they'll be, I think they'll be the fourth bye. I do. I still think the winner of the Big 12 is going to be the 3rd bye. I have slightly thought through most of the year that the Big 12 is better than the ACC. And then finally, I look at the Big 12. Is there a path, in the question that we raised, is there a path for the Big 12 to get 2 teams in the college football playoff? Because if that happens, then there's going to be 1 fewer team from the Big 10 or the SEC that gets jabbed out because of the fact the only way that it can happen, Colorado's ranked 17th in these rankings, BYU is ranked 6th. So BYU is right on the line. They're right smacked in the middle of the rankings. If BYU suffers 1 loss, are they out, is the question. And I would tend to think that would be yes. But if BYU keeps on winning, they're undefeated in the Big 12 championship game, and let's say they lose by a field goal to Colorado, then who will be the team that's on the outside looking in? So that's still what's fascinating to me is, can the Big 12 get 2 teams in? We know the ACC championship will determine the only ACC team that gets in. And then I think if you're an Indiana football fan, you should feel good about Indiana getting in, regardless if they have a good showing up against Ohio State or not. So at the end of the year, I do think these will be the teams that get in. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, and I will say, but hold on, I got to redo this. I got to get the Big 12 champ in. So let me just do it this way. Here I think your conference champs are going to be. I think Oregon will be a conference champion. I do think that you will get. You know what? I have your 12 teams. Let me just do this. I'm doing this on the fly. Oregon in, Ohio State in, Texas in, Penn State in, Indiana in, Notre Dame in, Miami in, Alabama in, Ole Miss in, Georgia in, Boise State in, and I'll say Colorado wins the Big 12. Those are the 12 teams that I think are going to get in. So I don't think Tennessee will get in. I think they're going to lose to Georgia this weekend. And I think BYU is going to be out and Colorado will get in. Outside of that, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame, Miami, winning the ACC, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Boise State. I think those, with Colorado, I think are going to be the 12 teams that get into the college football playoff. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back. We will discuss Anthony Richardson. Update time first. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Greg Popovich's recent absence was due to a mild stroke suffered nearly 2 weeks ago before a home game back on November 2nd. The Spurs say the 75-year-old coach is expected to make a full recovery. There's no timetable for his return. Also tonight in the NBA, the Cavaliers looking to make it 13 straight to open the season. They're in Philadelphia tonight looking to extend their winning ways, and the Sixers will be without both Joel Embiid and Paul George, neither of whom is going to be playing the second game on the back end of a back-to-back night. The Colts are giving Anthony Richardson another chance. The former fourth pick overall is back as the starter and for the rest of the season after being benched a couple of weeks ago. Joe Flacco threw 3 interceptions in last week's loss to the Bills. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence will miss his second straight game due to an injured left shoulder, while the Raiders are starting Gardner Minshew at quarterback this week against the Dolphins. The Chiefs have opened the practice window on both Isaiah Pacheco and Charles Omenihu, but neither is expected to play this weekend. The Commanders have ruled out corner Marshawn Lattimore for tomorrow night against the Eagles, and the Bears have released veteran offensive lineman Nate Davis. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're the Backstreet Boys, and you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. AJ at Indianapolis says, Zach, do you think Anthony Richardson will definitely be the Colts starting quarterback next season? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. No, I don't. I don't think he'll definitely be the quarterback next year. I think he'll be on the roster. I think he will have a chance to win the job. I don't think they're going to be drafting a quarterback in the first round, but I think they're going to bring in a veteran who can seriously go on out and win the job week one. I do. And I think they're going to give him every opportunity to win the job and every opportunity to prove them wrong. But I really think this coaching staff is out on Anthony Richardson. And they don't believe that Anthony Richardson is the guy in Indianapolis. And it's kind of crazy that the Colts general manager, Chris Ballard, is still the GM. Chris Ballard, he has been there a long time. Like, Stu, if you had to guess, just take a guess. What year did Chris Ballard become the GM in Indianapolis? If you had to take a guess.
Wow. Let's just say 2012.
2017. Ed Grigson, remember?
Grigson, yeah.
Ryan Grigson with the whole Andrew Luck disaster. But he's been the GM there since 2017.
That's right.
For a guy to be a GM since 2017 in this league with not a lot of success, like you look at it, Ryan Grigson, since being the GM of the Colts, they've made the playoffs 2 times. You make the playoffs 2 times in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now they're going to miss it this year. 8 years on the job. How many GMs are able to be the GM for that long? And by the way, only have one playoff win. One playoff win. They lost in the wild card round the other time. How are you still the general manager and your one playoff win was up against the Houston Texans in the 2018 season? 21-7, and then you lost to the Chiefs the following week 31-13. You want to talk about a GM that has really stayed around longer than anyone could have expected. It's Chris Ballard. And everyone has positive things to say about this guy. No one ever says a bad word about Chris Ballard. But this is another play that they've missed on. So I think they're going to try to give him every chance. But what can you really do when the coach just doesn't like the quarterback? And that's what I think it is with Shane Steichen. And if you want to say I'm wrong on that, then my retort to you would be this. Why'd they bench him? Because we could see a player have a bad moment on the field. And if the coach believes he's the guy and he's the franchise quarterback, that they wouldn't publicly humiliate him for 2 weeks and sit him down. But when you don't believe you got the guy, and then the guy taps out and quits on a play, you're going to then sit him down because you don't believe he's your franchise quarterback. So for the Colts to tell me that Anthony Richardson's going to be their guy moving forward, no. These next 7 games, he has to prove to the coaching staff that I could still be the dude. I could still be the guy that could go on out there and be a franchise quarterback. But this is what dysfunctional teams do. They keep the player and they keep the regime that drafted the player and they keep on running it back. Like, they'll bring in someone, as I said, to compete with Anthony Richardson. But next year, let's say if Anthony Richardson is the starter, you're keeping a coach who doesn't like the quarterback and you think that's going to work long term? Even if Richardson balls out here in the final 7 games and Steichen then starts to say, I actually like Richardson more than I thought. The moment there's any adversity next season, you're going to be in the same damn spot as we are here right now. Stu, I don't even have to say, even with your organization, the Raiders, and as dysfunctional as they are, and they've made a lot of stupid decisions, you even have to laugh at this dysfunction with the Indianapolis Colts because 2 weeks ago they tell you, we're not going to bench Anthony Richardson. Then they bench him. Then we're going to Joe Flacco. Joe's our guy for the rest of the season. And then today, or yesterday, Anthony Richardson's back on. He's going to be starting for the rest of the season. It's like, what are we doing here? How are you going to have any success when in 2 weeks you've gone back and forth on your word, I don't know, 7 times? This is, even the Raiders, I think, are better than this still.
I was going to say, the Raiders have been flip-flopping quarterbacks all year, but at least it's not something where they're like, oh, we're going to keep the... No, like, they just make the change. Like, they went
injuries, bad play.
Yeah, they're sticking with Gardner Minshew after the bye week. Okay, fine, but it's not like, okay, we're going to Desmond Ridder, and it's like, oh, never mind. It is Minshew. So, yeah, it's definitely not the same incompetence, which is kind of shocking from the Colts.
And even if I'm trying to see the good in the Colts plan, because the Colts thought to themselves, so they made this move. They were 4-4, and they made this move thinking, okay, the next 4 games are the toughest games on our schedule, remaining the rest of the way. We play Minnesota, we play Buffalo, we play the Jets, and we then play the Lions. We just got to go 2-2. We go 2-2, we could be 6-6, and we got to win 3 games down the stretch to have us make the postseason up against New England, Denver, Tennessee, the Giants, and Jacksonville. Right? But even if you made the playoffs, Indianapolis, where are you going? No one looks at this team and says, hey, Super Bowl. No one looks at this team and expects you to even make the playoffs or even win a playoff game. So you went to Joe because Joe's the veteran, Joe's the professional, and Joe last year was able to go on a good run in Cleveland. But that Cleveland team from where they were last year is much better than this Colts team that they have this year. So you went to Joe, and the Minnesota game showed you why the decision was wrong, if we're going to be fair. Because Flores' defense, it actually was the mistake to do it then because of the fact that Richardson's more mobile. It's like Joe Flacco is going to be running for his life in this game, and he can't run. But you lost the game 21-13. When you make that change, you can't lose the game because of your offense. And they lost that game because of their offense. And then you can't just make the change and rip off the Band-Aid after 1 week. So you go back up against the Buffalo Bills, who are just a much better football team, and you had no chance. But if the plan was to go 2-2, and if Joe Flacco gives you a better chance to win than Anthony Richardson, if that's why you did it, then yeah, Joe Flacco should be starting up against the Jets this week. But now at 4-6, the odds of you making the playoffs, like, are you going to go 2-2? Like, you can beat the Jets. Are you then going to beat the Lions? I would say no. So you're probably, at best case scenario, going to go 1-3 in this stretch. So it's like the Colts said, hey, we're going to do everything to try to make the playoffs this year. And then after 2 losses, hey, we're actually going to blow up that plan. We're going back to the future. We're all along, if you're being fair and if you're being honest. And I know sometimes football teams, they get caught up in these situations thinking, oh, we're in it. We can make the playoffs. If you're a good GM, if you're a good president of football operations, you're a good head coach, you truly know what your team is capable of. And I know you could see the optimism, and sometimes you could be biased. But I would say this to Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen looking back at the decision. Hey, if you guys made the playoffs, what is it going to accomplish? Like, what are you doing once you make the playoffs? And if they're being fair, we're probably losing wild card weekend. So you're jeopardizing the future of the franchise and evaluating to see if Anthony Richardson is the guy to go make a postseason where you're going to go home and extend your season by 1 extra week. And that's not even a guarantee. And you look back, and if you could say, oh, well, Zach, you should always be trying to win. And I can understand that, right? Fans want to see their teams win. Ask the Giants how that worked out for them. Right? Like, the Giants made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. And they were already out on Daniel Jones. Then, because they won that playoff game, they had to give him this contract. And now that's one of the worst deals in the NFL. So, just because you make the postseason doesn't mean you're actually close to being a contender. Doesn't mean you have your franchise quarterback. And I know in this case, they're sitting down Richardson and they're going to Flacco. But going to old man Joe Flacco, who we like, right? What was that going to accomplish even if you made the playoffs? What was that going to do for your franchise? And the answer was nothing. Nothing. Outside of maybe make you feel good for an extra week before you get smacked by whoever you play in the AFC. So that's why this whole logic was faulty from the start. Because even though I have said now for 3 months, I think Anthony Richardson is a social media quarterback, and I don't believe in him, you are deserving of an opportunity to prove it, and you should get a full season to prove it. Last year he got hurt. I know he's banged up a little bit this year, but he was back and healthy. And yes, he looked out of shape. Yes, he looked tired. Yes, he quit on his team. I'm not defending any of those things. But when the alternative is to put a quarterback in who's not going to lead you to the playoffs and is old, why would you sit the youth? I would rather see the unknown, even though I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to be any good, and see what he's capable of instead of this blip of sitting him down for 2 weeks and now putting him back in. So, even now, I imagine they lose this game to the Jets, which is on the table. They could lose to the Jets this week. I'm not saying you should feel confident if you're the Jets. I'm not saying you should feel confident in the Colts. But can Anthony Richardson lose this game up against the Jets this week? Absolutely. He can. And can you imagine in this circus that is the Colts, if let's say Richardson is just horrible, are they then going to go back to Flacco? Like, I don't think they would. Because at this rate, then you'd be 4-7. You know your season's over. But then you say once again, what did this accomplish? What did this prove outside of even though we don't think he's the guy and he's proving he's not the guy, we could have seen more evidence. We could have seen him play more and at least get him the reps. Because Richardson hasn't played a lot. At Florida, didn't play enough. In Indianapolis, didn't play enough. And there are maybe like 2 or 3 games where he looks really good. And people then think, oh, that's going to lead to a career of greatness. Faulty logic. That's what I think of around Anthony Richardson's entire career. He was never as good as what people thought he could be at Florida because of that one game up against Utah and one other game. The Colts thought, oh, they had their guy. That's why they drafted him. They quickly realized they don't have the guy, but they're not letting him play. So now they're going to let him play again. And probably Shane Steichen will be proven right that he's not the guy. But are you going to draft a first-round quarterback this year? Potentially. But you're not going to get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward unless if you trade up. And I don't think the Colts, right, are going to have their guy moving forward after this year. So it's another wasted season. It's another year. It kind of falls in line with Chris Ballard's tenure. Another year where there's not a lot cooking there. But yet everyone's going to keep their job outside of what, maybe you run the quarterback back for another year and then by midseason he won't be the quarterback again. Just what a disaster. Seriously. What a disaster. And the Colts have had a lot of these situations. Even when they had the guy in Andrew Luck. Ryan Grigson, I don't even know where Ryan Grigson is. He should be locked up and tried for football crimes, if I'm being honest. I want to say Ryan Grigson. I know he's on a staff somewhere. I think he was in Philadelphia for a little bit. Ryan Grigson right now. He's with the Minnesota Vikings. Senior Vice President of Player Personnel. Since leaving Indianapolis, he was with the Browns. He's with the Seahawks. Then the Browns again. And the last few years with the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know why I thought he was with Philadelphia. So there you go on that front. But geez, this Colts organization, since Peyton Manning has left, they've had some moments, right? Luck was solid for a little bit, but they ruined him. Even the Jonathan Taylor contract, where you had Jim Irsay coming on his RV and all that stuff. That was a disaster. Just certain organizations have a clown culture. The Colts are one of them. And it seems like whatever decision they make, it's always wrong, and there's always a way that you can laugh at it if you're not a fan of the Indianapolis Colts. All righty, that will do it for our Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will come back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We'll do some more college football. We'll do some more NFL. We'll also get into the UFC waters as well, with UFC coming to MSG. I'm going to the event on Saturday, so we'll get a few fighters on coming up tomorrow, which I'm very much so looking forward to. I'd like to thank Hot Take Hickey for joining us today as he took some time off from riding over the college football playoff rankings to storm our studio and have some fun with us. Also like to thank Michael Samter and Stuart Kovacs as well, and each and every one of you for coming on by and listening to our extravaganza. We'll talk mañana at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. Have a good night, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.